Super Typhoon Betty going over to Pegasus site, the government agency that tracks the weather here. And here's where it started. Tropical Depression, TD Betty. It really wasn't called Betty out here. Um, it was called MAWAR, MAWER. And as it gets to this red line here, this is the imaginary line, and it denotes the Philippine Area of Responsibility. Once it crosses that line, the Philippines changes the name from Mawar to Betty. There are several agencies around the world that put out different tracking information, and I'm going to show you a number of other tracks that are projected for this. And I have seen, my 7 years here in the Philippines, I have seen projections, forecasts for typhoons that they aren't going to turn into much, and they've turned into super typhoons. I've seen tracks change at the very last minute, especially once they get into the Philippine Sea, the very warm seas. They can grow very rapidly into super typhoons. So let's jump over to windy.com. Betty is coming. Big bad Betty, super typhoon. It's set up out here in the Pacific, and I'm looking at a site, a free site that you can have on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. Windy.com. Very easy to remember. Very excellent site. Free to use. I pay for the premium. I don't know, a couple dollars, $3, $4, $5 a year, something like that, for the app to get a little bit more access to data. Anyway, you've got I'm broadcasting from here in the Philippines. You've got the Philippines right over here, these islands here. All these islands right here stretch a long distance along here. And this became a MAWAR, MAWAR is what they call it. And it started out here in the Pacific as a low pressure system, became tropical depression and storm, and eventually typhoon and super typhoon. And here it is right here today as I'm broadcasting, May 27th. And there are a number of different tracks, and I'm going to, you can't see it, but over to the left on my computer screen, I can click on there are different agencies that have different tracks for this. This is Taiwan up here, got Japan up here. It hit Guam out here, hit pretty hard a couple days ago. And there is a vlogger living in the Pacific out here, and I think he lost electricity and internet for a while, but he's going to be putting up some video. Anyway, let me click on the various different tracks. Now this is UKM, and they have it coming down closer to making landfall in northern Luzon. Luzon being the northernmost island group here in the Philippines, and then going up and getting very close to Taiwan there. BOM-A. Not exactly sure what that stands for, but there's another agency group that has a little bit different track here. And the ECMWF, their track, you can see they have it swinging back out into the Pacific as it goes further north. But anyway, it is affecting. I'm down here right down in this area right down here where my cursor is. And you can see with the huge and I'll go over some of the news reports and how they're actually talking about shutting down some ferries. 7,000 islands here, folks, so there's a lot of ferry traffic and airplane traffic. And this is, it's having the effect here for the last couple days. We've had mostly cloudy skies, and a couple times we've had hard rain, and it's because it is the big sucking sound. This low pressure system is sucking in so much of the moist, warm air off of the warmer seas down here and bringing it up here. And you'll see in the news reports that parts of the western Visayas over here and even western Mindanao are expected to get some heavy rains And not because it's going to be directly affected by this. Well, it really is directly affected, but not in the high winds. But it is directly affected, if that makes any sense, because this is a huge super typhoon, and it has a huge effect over the whole region. Now, a number of things that you can plug in here. You can get radar and satellite. Wind is what I have on there now. You can bring in clouds, wind gusts, rain, thunder, temperature, clouds, waves, air quality, many more layers as well. And you go down here and you can, here's the timeline down here on the bottom down here, and you can drag this along. You can drag this along to see how it's predicted to move and the time periods when it's expected to hit as well. Wednesday, Thursday, so it's still having effect even into for several more days here. And the more layers here, what else do we have? More layers. Rain, thunder, rain accumulation, new snow, snow depth, precipitation type, thunderstorms, temperature, dew point, humidity, freezing altitude, wet bulb temp, solar power, UV index, clouds, high clouds, medium clouds, low clouds, fog, fog tops, cloud tops, cloud base, visibility, thermals, waves, swell, swell 2, swell 3, wind waves, sea temperature, currents. Oh, it just goes on and on and on. Look at that. Pressure, fire intensity, dust mass, CO2 concentration, surface ozone, soil moisture, outdoor map, weather warnings, drought intensity. So it is a great app to use, and you can use it all over the world. Now, I have this turned on 3D, so you're looking at a globe basically, and here's the U.S. for instance. And I know many of you that are waiting for the Philippines to open up entirely. Some of you visited Colombia, some Panama, Costa Rica, and a number of other areas, Ecuador, Africa, Europe. A lot of my viewers up here in Europe. You can check and see what's going on up there, and you can zoom in. You can zoom in. And I can go over here, and instead of a globe, I can do 2D to flatten everything out. I'm going to jump into some news stories about the situation and how it's going to affect travel here in the Philippines. But first, here is a climate map of the Philippines based on averages from 1951 to 2010. And keeping in mind that climate is not normal. Weather is not normal. I came here in 2015 during the rainy season. One of the Americans on the flight said, I'm coming during the rainy season to see if I can handle the rainy season here in the Philippines. Well, 2015 rainy season was a drought season, so he did not experience the rainy season, even though it did rain a couple times, 2-3 times a week, and it would rain 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes and then stop. Maybe do it again later in the day. 2019, again, the rainy season, we had a drought. So just keep in mind, climate weather is not normal. You can get averages, but let's jump into the news stories here. There are many things affecting climate and weather, including the Earth's weakening magnetic shield, and including wind currents, ocean currents, the sun's energy cycles and storms that blast down towards the Earth as well. And there are a number of sites that get into more details. Now here's a pretty good article from the Philstar Global, an online paper, and they've got a print edition as well. Super typhoon to bring strong winds, heavy rains, May 27th. And Super Typhoon Betty, international name MAWAR, was forecast to enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility late last night and expected to bring gale force winds, heavy rains over parts of the country in the coming days. Although the Pagasa does not forecast Betty to make landfall, it warned that a typhoon's rain bands and the southwest monsoon will affect many parts of the country. Southwest monsoon has kind of taken over the weather system. We've got two weather systems, basically four climate types, and but we have the northeast monsoons, and then we have what we've just going into as we near June, the southwest monsoons, where the air is coming in from the southwest, warmer weather generally. Betty is carrying maximum sustained winds of 215 kilometers per hour. That's could reach 220. I think 220 would be about 165 miles per hour for those of you on the mile. Gusts could reach 265 kilometers as it moves westward at 20 kilometers an hour. Now, there's a lot of forces affecting the tracks of these, and I've been here in the Philippines for 7 years, and I've seen small typhoons that start out small, and I've heard weather forecasters say, I don't think it's going to amount to much. It's going to go north, track north, and they've turned into super typhoons. In fact, they've gone west instead of north, and they've had major impacts on parts of the Philippines. Betty's massive outer rain bands, which currently has a radius of 500 kilometers, it's about 310 miles. So 500 kilometers, about 310 miles, may reach extreme northern Luzon and bring heavy winds over Cagayan Valley, including northern portions of Aurora, Babuyan Islands, and Batanes starting Sunday night. Tropical cyclone wind signals may be hoisted as early as Sunday during Betty's passage over PAR, Philippine Area of Responsibility. Is an imaginary kind of a rectangular type line that goes around the Philippines, and when it enters that area, the Philippines changes the international name. Kind of confusing, but that's what they do, and it's their responsibility to track it, and PAGASA, the government agency, tracks it across there. PAGASA said the super typhoon might trigger monsoon rains over portions of central and southern Luzon, as well as western sections of the Visayas and Mindanao. Moderate to heavy rainfall are expected over these areas starting Tuesday as MAWAR edges closer to the country. But the forecasted heavy rainfall would not cause the opening of dam gates in parts of the country, it also said. Now, we've got a number of dam reservoirs from which the country gets some of its irrigation water and drinking water. PAGASA forecasters warn that there are dangers of flash floods, especially as drainage and creeks could be inundated from the previous rains in the past couple of days. While Super Typhoon Yolanda, which was in 2013, was a much stronger cyclone with strength reaching over 220 kilometers per hour, PAGASA said Betty should not be underestimated. And what I have seen, I have stayed up till 3 a.m. a couple times in I think 2016, late 2015 maybe, waiting for the predicted typhoon to come through Cebu, and it was just barely a rainstorm. And I have seen rainstorms, low pressure systems come through, do much more damage with flooding and rain than some of the forecasted typhoons. So beware. In the Visayas and Mindanao, some ferry services were already ordered by the Philippine Ports Authority to halt their scheduled trips in light of the super typhoon. The affected routes include Cebu, Calbayog, and Calbayog, Cebu, Padre Burgos in Leyte to Lapata, Surigao City, and vice versa. Classes in some areas were suspended yesterday due to the rainy weather caused by localized thunderstorms. I read that. I kind of wondered why. Well, I guess it's because we have very mountainous areas just outside of Cebu City, and when they get rain, they can get landslides and all sorts of issues with more flooding. So no doubt there are going to be many ferry services that are going to be affected in the coming days, as well as air flight travel as well. Buses and automobile routes could also be affected, as it's not uncommon with heavy rains to get landslides across some of the roads going near or over the mountains. General flood, eastern Visayas, general flood advisory moderate. Northern Samar, Leyte, eastern Samar, Biliran, southern Leyte. General flood advisory moderate, region 6, western Visayas, Antique, Capiz. Be careful over there, Lawrence. Aklan, Iloilo. General flood advisory Bicol region. Camarines Norte, Masbate. Masbate just had an earthquake, I think about a 5 level intensity here in the last couple days, as did the islands up here, over a 5, the Batanes Islands. So the question is, are you prepared? Do you have batteries, flashlights, food, water? Do you have the things that you would need if the electric goes out for days or weeks? I experienced that back in December 16th, 17th, and on for a month or two here when Typhoon Odette hit in 2021. And yeah, generators, we've got some buildings, condos have backup generators, but they ran out of diesel fuel. Took a couple weeks to get diesel fuel load in. And I heard some condos would only allow, they didn't want to spend the money for diesel fuel, and so they would only turn it on for a couple hours a day, maybe an hour here, an hour later in the evening. And our condo did that. They had to schedule when they were going to turn it on, but they never kept to that schedule, so you never knew when it was going to be on. Anyway, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.